Eric Arthur Blair, under his pen name George Orwell, has been one of the most influential authors of the modern era. When the threat of communism arose in the West during the 1950s, schools implemented Animal Farm into their standard curriculum. It has been read in middle and high schools since the 1950s due to its heavily anti-communist themes and its ability to showcase complex historical and political events in a simple and digestible way. Because of the nature of his politically charged works, people across the political spectrum have been committing an appeal to Orwell to make their case against the state. But what if I told you that Orwell was not some right-wing, anti-communist Western ideologue? Yes, he rejected communism, but not from the typical Western, pro-capitalist perspective. Orwell himself writes that while working as a policeman in Burma from 1922 to 1928, he became more aware of his, quote, natural hatred of authority and made me for the first time fully aware of the existence of the working classes, end quote. From an early age, Orwell began to see the problems of the world through the lens of class consciousness and social hierarchy. Then, during the 1936 Spanish Civil War, he fought alongside a Trotskyist-aligned militia, POUM, or, in Spanish, Partido Obrero de Unificación Marxista, or, in English, the, quote, Workers' Party of Marxist Unification. Reflecting on his brief time in Spain, he writes that it turned the scales and thereafter I knew where I stood. Orwell's political ideology, as a self-described democratic socialist, was established during this time, and from then on his politics would forever be reflected in his writings. Of this, he writes that, quote, every line of serious work that I have written since 1936 has been written, directly or indirectly, against totalitarianism or for democratic socialism, as I understand it, end quote. But even calling Orwell a democratic socialist undersells his actual ideology. According to research from the Open University, Orwell had little interest in political theory itself, if any. If he was suspicious of all ideology, in which in the wrong hands could become what he called smelly little orthodoxies. Orwell was no ideologue. For him, socialism was first and foremost about common decency, a phrase that he used quite often. This was done by addressing real social and economic injustices and improving the lives of ordinary people, not adhering to any specific doctrine. His 1941 essay, The Lion and the Unicorn, criticized the Europeanized intelligentsia who, in his words, quote, took their cookery from Paris and their opinions from Moscow. In left-wing circles, it is always felt that there is something slightly disgraceful in being an Englishman, and that it is a duty to snigger at every English institution. End quote. In Orwell's eyes, they favored imported ideology over the instincts of ordinary working people, and a disgrace of their own national patriotism. Orwell is a prime example of a socialist attacking his own side's elite, and it is exactly why his work has been claimed by so many different people for so many different reasons since. However, this is not a video about Orwell, the history of his life, or his political beliefs. For that, I would highly suggest Ryan Chapman and World War II's videos, which I've linked in the description. This is a video about Animal Farm critiqued from the perspective of a right-wing Zoomer. In 1945, George Orwell wrote his first work of political allegory. It was a story about how the animals of Mr. Jones's farm rise up, take control, and kick out all humans to create new animal utopia. Slowly over time, the pigs take control and eventually become worse leaders than the original humans. Ironically, the pigs in the closing remarks are described as looking, quote, from pig to man, and from man to pig, and from pig to man again. But already it was impossible to say which was which, end quote. His story is an allegory to the Bolshevik Revolution in Tsarist Russia, the implementation of communism, and its eventual failure to produce the promised classless, stateless society. Orwell says about Animal Farm that it was, quote, the first book in which I tried, with full consciousness of what I was doing, to fuse political purpose and artistic purpose into one whole, end quote. With all this in mind, let's look at Orwell's critique. Orwell's largest and most blatant critique of communism in Animal Farm is the pigs' ultimate betrayal of the 7 commandments of animalism, the founding laws written on the barn after Old Major, the elderly boar, whose vision sparked the rebellion, inspired the animals to rise up in the first place. The original commandments were simple. No animal shall wear clothes, sleep in a bed, drink alcohol, or kill another animal. And above all animals are equal. By the end of the book, the pigs have completely rewritten nearly every one of them. 2. No animal shall kill any other animal is added without cause. No animal shall sleep in a bed becomes no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. One by one, the rules bend just enough to excuse whatever the pigs are already doing. By the final pages, only one commandment remains on the barn wall. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Along with the changing of the commandments themselves, we watch the pigs slowly take on every human trait they once despised and vowed to fight against. They engage in trade, money handling, vices, walking on two legs, and carrying whips. Orwell correctly points to these and more blatant critiques of the state as well, things like the rewriting of pivotal moments in the animal's history and blaming failed policy on an external enemy, the usage of propaganda and simplifying ideas to remove intellectual rigor, the blatant lies to the members of their I'm not going to edit this out. The blatant lies to the members of their society that life is better now as opposed to the previous party. All of these are things I actually agree with Orwell on. The usage of media and propaganda to nullify lower classes is dangerous. These are a lot of the things that I agree with him on, and I really appreciated that I could find things that I agree with him on, but I'll get to that in a second. But there was one thing in this book that stuck out to me more than anything else, on which all of Orwell's critique falls short of describing, and this is the fact that hierarchy is inevitable, and animalism was always destined to fail because of this. Right after the rebellion and the expulsion of Mr. Jones and his employees from the barn, the animals begin to harvest the hay. However, Orwell writes, quote, "The pigs did not actually work, but directed and supervised others. With their superior knowledge, it was natural that they should assume the leadership," end quote. From the moment Jones is gone, a new hierarchy emerges in the pigs. The egalitarian belief that all animals are equal falls apart. A hole in the leadership opens, and the pigs fill its void. But even before this, it is clear that not all animals are equal. Is a cat equal in worth to a horse? Or is a sheep equal in worth to a dog? All the animals of society have different strengths and weaknesses determined by their genetics and environment. The cat keeps mice out of the barn, while the horse pulls the plow that readies the field for planting. The dog protects the livestock and herds of the animals when traveling. No animal is created equal. From the beginning, there is an intrinsic worth of every animal. When the pigs take control, they begin to sort out the issues and for a while maximize production. They are able to read the farming books and other books in the house and learn to utilize the farm. But even between the pigs, hierarchy becomes inevitable. Snowball and Napoleon become the two leaders of the pigs. Snowball, representing the historical Leon Trotsky, symbolizes intellectualism, idealism, and the genuine desire to improve the lives of the working class through progress and education. Napoleon, representing Joseph Stalin, focuses on brute force and uses of fear, lies, and secret police to gain intel and total power and betray the goals of the revolution. Eventually, their differences boil over and Napoleon exiles Snowball. As time goes on, Napoleon is increasingly secluded from the other animals, spending all day with his inner elite in the barn house. This new oligarchy becomes the new Mr. Jones, only concerned with their own production and food. We read, as the other animals starve, that, quote, "Squealer was so fat that he could with difficulty see out of his eyes," end quote. We see the priority given to the newborn piglets over other animals. In Orwell's view, all of this was a warning about the corruption of revolutionary ideals by a new ruling class, and I agree with almost everything he's pointing to: propaganda, rewritten history, and the external enemy as a scapegoat. Where I part ways with him is the word corruption itself. Corruption implies that something good went bad. I don't think animalism was ever good to begin with, in the same way that I don't think communism in theory even sounds good. From the moment Jones left, someone had to fill the vacuum of leadership. The pigs, being the most capable, were always going to be the ones to fill it. Even among the pigs themselves, a hierarchy formed almost immediately, with Snowball and Napoleon splitting into two competing centers of power. This wasn't a good system corrupted by bad men. This was the same outcome every version of this system produces, because the moment you concentrate the power you need to run something, you've built the exact tool someone will eventually use to escape being held accountable for it. I want to end on a positive note, however. There is much in this book that I missed when I read it back in middle school, and I'm glad to have reread it. Historically, Orwell is a great first-hand witness to the things that the communists were doing. As one who fought for them, he saw as they rewrote history and fell victim to the exact same thing that they fought against. I plan to read more of his works in the future. I have come to respect him, even though I disagree with his politics, and I find a strange connection to Orwell. We both came of age in a politically radical and historic time, and Orwell describes our political journey best. In a peaceful age, I might have remained almost unaware of my political loyalties. If you guys made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Go ahead and like the video, leave a comment down in the chat. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. America first. God bless, and I'm praying for you all.